Let's look at the global narcissistic control system, how it works and how you can break free. Many are familiar with narcissistic abuse in personal relationships. Could be a manipulative parent, an abusive partner, a controlling boss. And you might have heard about gaslighting, triangulation, and emotional warfare as tools used to weaken individuals and make them dependent on the abuser. And if you have been or are in a close relationship with a narcissist or psychopath, you know firsthand what it's like. And if you recognize this pattern of manipulation, you might start to recognize that the very same mechanisms are used by people in power on a global scale. You might start to wonder, what if the world itself is structured in the very same way as an abusive relationship, engineered not for freedom, for empowerment, but for control? Look at it openly and honestly, and you might find some unpleasant things. History is not shaped by benevolent leaders, but by those who understand power, like narcissists, psychopaths, and Machiavellian strategists who thrive on deception, dominance, control. They do not seek progress, they seek control. And just as a narcissistic abuser keeps their victim focused and submissive, global systems condition humanity to accept delusion as reality, slavery as freedom, and sickness as health. Once you start to recognize this pattern, you will never see the world the same way again. Yes, we're going to talk about how the system controls, manipulates, and keeps you trapped. But that's not where this ends. At the end of the video, I'm going to share 10 powerful steps that you can take to help you break free mentally, emotionally, and practically. So stay till the end, because understanding the problem, it is not enough. You need a way out. An abusive individual isolates their victim, distorts their reality, fosters exhaustion, and enforces dependency. Now look at the world around you. Isolation, social division, censorship, and engineered crisis keeps people disconnected from genuine human connection. Gaslighting, controlled narratives, distort truth, making people question their own instincts while trusting authority figures completely blindly. Exhaustion, economic stress, endless distractions, and societal pressures drain energy, leaving no room for resistance, deep or critical thinking. Dependency, reliance on pharmaceuticals, industrialized food, and financial systems ensures people remain trapped in cycles of control. If the goal truly was to empower humanity, why are the systems designed to weaken rather than strengthen us? Let's have a look at the dark tetrad in action. The same psychological traits that define people with the disorder within the dark tetrad are embedded within the structures that govern society. Narcissism, grandiosity, deception, and the illusion of benevolence. This is for your own good. Machiavellianism, ruthless strategy, deception, and manipulation behind the scenes. Psychopathy, decision-making without empathy, where suffering is seen as collateral damage. Sadism, a system that not only controls, but appears to thrive on mass disempowerment. Each of these traits manifests in the way global power structures operate, shaping narratives to keep humanity compliant. Ask yourself who benefits from people when they stop trusting their own critical thinking. Let's look at the various tools that are used to keep humanity enslaved. The food and chemical war on consciousness. The attack on human autonomy doesn't start with politics or finance, it starts with the body. Processed foods disrupt cognitive function and gut health, leading to chronic fatigue, inflammation, and brain fog. Glyphosate and other pesticides damage gut bacteria, directly affecting mental clarity and immune function. Fluoride historically used in World War II to dull the brains of Jews, is promoted as beneficial. Heavy metals in food and water subtly impair neurological function. Toxins in everyday products disrupt hormones, reproductive health, and mental stability. This is not about nourishment, it is about control. A weak, confused, and sick population is much easier to govern. Surveillance, radiation, and digital tracking. The modern world is not just monitored, it is a prison without walls. Smartphones track location, behavior, and conversations 24/7. Social media algorithms build psychological profiles, subtly influencing thoughts and actions. CCTV, smart devices, and voice assistants capture personal data under the guise of convenience. EMF radiation from 5G and Wi-Fi alters neurological function, sleep patterns, and cellular health. Digital currency and social credit systems inch closer to a world where financial access depends on compliance. Consider this. If privacy was valued, why is mass surveillance normalized? If technology was meant to empower, why is it used as a leash? The medical pharmaceutical complex, medicine or manipulation? Health should be about prevention and healing, yet modern medicine has become a for-profit industry where lifelong dependency is more valuable than true prevention and healing. Doctors are not trained in nutrition or holistic health. Their education is largely focused on pharmaceutical interventions and surgery, often neglecting the root causes of disease. Most medications manage systems rather than addressing root causes, leading to continued reliance. Meanwhile, adverse reactions often require additional drugs, creating this cycle of medical dependence rather than true healing. The vaccine industry operates largely without liability, meaning that if harm occurs, legal recourse is extremely limited. Pharmaceutical companies fund the research into their own products while labeling it independent, despite an obvious conflict of interest. The FDA and other regulatory agencies receive significant fundings from the very companies they are supposed to regulate. Obviously, that is raising serious concerns about bias and lack of true oversight. When the profit-driven industry controls the research, approval process, and medical guidelines, can we really expect an objective, truth-based view? Or only the narrative that benefits pharmaceutical corporations? Natural medicine is discredited, not because it lacks effectiveness, but because it does not generate corporate profit. If the goal were truly health, why are harmful substances allowed in our food, water, and air, while natural remedies are demonized? The gaslighting of humanity, how they keep you stuck in illusion. There is a hidden war on perception happening right now. Much about what you've been taught about the world was carefully orchestrated, an illusion designed to shape your beliefs, control your thoughts, and make you doubt your own instincts, your own wisdom. If you've ever been in a manipulative relationship, you already recognize the pattern. A narcissist distorts reality so their victim questions their own memories. They manipulate emotions to keep their victim confused and compliant. They drip feed just enough truth to maintain control, while ensuring escape feels impossible. Now, expand this dynamic beyond personal relationships. Apply it to governments, corporations, media, and financial institutions. What if we've been all gaslit, conditioned to believe falsehood, dismiss our intuition, and accept a manufactured reality as truth? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is social engineering at its most sophisticated. Look at how often an alternative viewpoint is immediately labeled dangerous, misinformation, or a conspiracy theory. Who benefits when people doubt themselves rather than questioning the system? Gaslighting is a psychological manipulation tactic designed to make individuals doubt their own perception of reality, making them easier to control while minimizing the risk of accountability for the abusers. In personal relationships, it looks like this. I never said that, even when they clearly did. You're imagining things when you confront them with evidence. You're overreacting when you point out mistreatment. Everyone else agrees with me. To isolate and discredit you. If that was true, more people would know about it. To dismiss alternative perspectives. So this is what the same pattern looks like on a global level. That never happened. Historical events rewritten, erased or manipulated. You're a conspiracy theorist. Critical thinking ridiculed to maintain compliance. If that were true, the news would report on it. Blind trust in control media. The science is settled. Genuine inquiry shut down in favor of dogma. It's for your own safety. Justifying oppression under the guise of protection. Gaslighting is not just about deception. It is about mentally, emotionally and spiritually exhausting people until they no longer trust their own thoughts. If you want to control a population, you must first control their understanding of the past. History is not written by the most truthful. It is written by the victors, the people in power, the suppressors, the colonizers. Entire civilizations have been erased, their knowledge buried. Wars are rewritten so that the aggressors becomes the heroes. Religious and spiritual teachings are altered, replacing direct connection with rigid hierarchies. Ancient knowledge about consciousness, healing, energy is excluded from mainstream education. And let's look at who is erased from history. Well, women. Their contributions to science, to medicine and inventions are minimalized or often credited to men. Indigenous cultures, their wisdom, technologies and ways of healing dismissed as primitive. Black and Muslim innovators and revolutionaries largely ignored despite their profound impact on medicine, engineering, and global movements for justice. Oppressed groups, their stories are rewritten, their voices silenced, their struggles whitewashed. If history was written by those in power, how much of what we have been taught is actually true? The media as a weapon of mass deception. The media does not exist solely to inform, probably more so, it exists to shape perception. It decides which stories to highlight and which to bury. It frames events in ways to manipulate public opinion. It silences voices that challenge the dominant narrative. It repeats lies again and again until they're accepted as a truth. And social media takes it even further. Algorithms prioritize outrage, division, and emotional reactions because they generate engagement. Users are shadow banned or deplatformed if they question mainstream narratives. The dopamine cycle of endless scrolling, binge-watching, and all-night gaming keeps people addicted, distracted, and too exhausted to think critically. But it does more than just distract. It disconnects us from ourselves and from each other. Parents, absorbed in their screens, are not fully present with their children, leading to neglect and emotional disconnection. A generation is growing up without real attention, creating a deep wound of abandonment. And people are never truly still anymore. They cannot sit alone in silence, always needing noise, someone's voice, someone's opinion to fill the space. And this constant stimulation suppresses critical thinking, inner wisdom, intuition, and body awareness. If the media were truly free, why do all major outlets report identical stories, often using the exact same phrasing? Fear as a tool of compliance. Nothing shuts down critical thinking faster than fear. Fear of viruses, justified lockdowns, trafficking, and new surveillance measures. Fear of terrorism led to permanent restrictions on freedom. Fear of economic collapse keeps people dependent on a rigged financial system. Fear of climate disaster is used to centralize power rather than empower individuals. Fear of the other gender, the other race, different political beliefs, religions, immigrants, fuels division and conflict, keeping people from uniting against those in power, the abusers. Fear of global instability keeps populations willing to trade their freedom for the illusion of safety. Who benefits when people are kept in a permanent state of crisis? So fear is always the main narrative. What alternative perspectives are being ignored, censored, or ridiculed? Start tracking fear-based messaging every time you consume media. Ask, does this empower me or does it weaken me? The energy harvesting system, how fear feeds the matrix. Fear is not just a control mechanism. It is an energy source for the system itself. Think of a narcissist. They don't just manipulate for power, for control. They feed off the emotional energy they extract from their victims. The more chaos, the more stress and suffering they create, the more power they feel. It's their food. Now, apply this concept globally. Political conflicts are manufactured to keep people divided and emotionally invested. The media provokes mass hysteria because fearful people are easier to control. Social media fosters outrage and shame cycles to keep people engaged, drained, and distracted. When was the last time you felt mentally exhausted after watching the news or engaging in online debates? So who benefits from your emotional energy being siphoned into anger, fear, and helplessness? The fear frequency, a system designed to keep you stuck. What if fear is not just a psychological condition, but an energetic frequency that keeps people trapped in lower states of consciousness, in ignorance? Throughout history, those in power have understood that a fearful population is an obedient population. When people are in a state of survival, they are easy to manipulate, more dependent on authority, less likely to resist. If you've been in a toxic relationship, you know how fear is weaponized. A narcissist makes you afraid of their reactions, so you walk on eggshells. A manipulator uses fear of abandonment to keep you compliant. An abuser gaslights you into believing danger is everywhere, so that you desperately need them for your safety. So now consider this. What if the entire system is designed the very same way to keep humanity trapped in a chronic state of fear, so that people remained exhausted, distracted, and incapable of breaking free? Fear is not just psychological, it rewires the brain, alters decision-making, and weakens the body. When fear is activated, the brain shifts into survival mode, shutting down critical thinking. Stress hormones flood the body, leading to chronic fatigue, anxiety and illness. Creativity, intuition, and problem solving are suppressed because the mind is focused on immediate danger. People seek external guidance, looking for authority figures for safety instead of trusting their own instincts. This is why the mainstream narrative is built on fear. Fear of health crisis, it leads to blind medical compliance. Fear of war and terrorism justifies mass surveillance. Fear of economic collapse keeps people financially dependent. Fear of social rejection forces people to conform instead of questioning the system. Fear of the other fuels division between genders, races, political ideologies, religions, and cultures, ensuring that people never will unite against those in power. So if the goal was empowerment, why is society structured to keep people anxious, uncertain, and reactive? Fear is a frequency, a low vibrational state that keeps people trapped in cycles of scarcity, survival, and obedience. And it is not an accident, it is engineered. The media as a weapon of fear. News cycles are filled with disaster, conflict, and crisis because fear boosts engagement. Social media algorithms prioritize division, outrage, and controversy to keep people in a reactionary state. Dissenting voices are censored, shadow banned, or ridiculed to maintain the illusion of a singular truth. The psychological warfare of fear-based messaging. Governments and corporations manufacture fear-driven narratives to justify control measures. Crisis after crisis keeps people in a permanent state of anxiety, unable to process or resist. The illusion of safety is used to make people comply with increasing restrictions. The connection between fear, addiction, and dependency. Fear leads to escapism, addiction to news, entertainment, substances, gaming, social media, and pornography. People are conditioned to seek comfort in the very system that oppresses them. Fear-based marketing drives consumerism, convincing people that they are incomplete without external validation or products. People are conditioned from birth to accept a false version of reality. Fear and manipulation keep them enslaved without realizing it. The moment someone starts questioning, they're attacked, ridiculed, or silenced. A fearful mind is a controlled mind. A sovereign mind is untouchable. Low-frequency states like fear, guilt, shame, and anger keeps people trapped, compliant, and easy to manipulate. Hopelessness, despair ensures people never fight back or try to reclaim their power. High-frequency states, on the other hand, like joy, gratitude, love, it strengthens personal power, intuition, and resilience. Creation, expansion, self-mastery makes people immune to fear-based control. Let's look at that trauma bond with the system. A trauma bond occurs when an abuser creates a cycle of manipulation and fear and reward, making the victim emotionally, mentally, and yes, even physically dependent on them. Yes, physiological as well, because it is a biochemical addiction to the stress response cycle. In toxic relationships, the abuser alternates between pain and pleasure, punishment and reward, keeping the victim in a constant state of uncertainty, emotional turmoil, and dependency. The highs and the lows create a powerful hormonal cocktail in the body. Spikes of cortisol and adrenaline from stress, followed by dopamine and oxytocin, the feel-good hormones, when the abuser momentarily provides relief. This cycle rewires the brain and keeps the victim trapped. So let's apply the same dynamic to the system. Fear and crisis trigger stress hormones, keeping people in fight or flight mode, making them anxious, reactive, and easy to manipulate. Then, moments of relief are given. Stimulus checks, policy changes, inspiring speeches from leaders, and promises of a better future, which floods the brain with the feel-good hormones, reinforcing trust in the very system that created the stress in the first place. This push and pull dynamic keeps people coming back for more, just like a toxic relationship where the victim clings to the hope that the abuser will change. That is just a bad period. Another classic tactic used in manipulative relationships is future faking, promising change, painting an idealized future, saying exactly what the victim wants to hear to keep them invested. Things will get better soon. This crisis is just temporarily. Trust the plan. We are working on a solution. Just be patient. Your sacrifice now will lead to a much better tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. The goalpost is always moved just far enough for people to keep waiting, to never really reaching it, but they keep them hoping and keep them obedient. The system uses contrast to deepen this conditioning. Just like an abuser will love bomb their victim after mistreatment to keep them hooked, the system offers temporary relief after manufactured suffering. Restrictions are erased after compliance is forced. Inflation spikes, then stabilizes slightly, and people are expected to feel grateful. War tensions escalate, then de-escalate momentarily, reinforcing trust in leaders. A crisis is created, then authorities rescue people from it. This contrast between fear and relief keeps people in a state of cognitive dissonance. They know something feels totally wrong, but the moment of relief makes them question themselves. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe things really are improving. Maybe I should just be patient and trust the system. So this internal conflict neutralizes resistance. Just like an abusive relationship, the victim rationalizes the abuse because the good moments create just enough doubt to keep them from leaving. Fear and stress hormones keep people hyper-alert, anxious and obedient. Temporary relief floods the brain with dopamine, reinforcing dependency. Uncertainty keeps people from breaking free because the system controls their sense of stability. And over time, people become physically and emotionally addicted to the cycle, not because they enjoy suffering, but because their nervous system has adapted to it. The system was not designed to keep everyone asleep forever. In fact, it is structured to allow some people to wake up and start questioning everything. Why? How is that possible, you might wonder? But that's because when they can control your awakening, they still control you. The moment you start seeing through the illusion, they will flood you with endless rabbit holes, conspiracy theories, one crazier than the other about everything, making you question everything, even the things that are objectively true. They bombard you with information so that you are too busy chasing lies to ever stop and truly free yourself. So the more outrage, fear and confusion that they create, the more you stay engaged in the game that they designed. Many people wake up to the fact that the system is rigged, but they never really escape the fear paradigm. They think they are freeing themselves, but in reality they are still playing the game. The addiction to sensationalism, the car crash effect. There is this hidden addiction to sensationalized information, outrage and fear-based narratives. Much like when you drive past a car accident and feel an irresistible urge to stop and look, these dramatic revelations flood the brain with stress hormones and adrenaline, creating a highly addictive cycle. The constant exposure to shocking new revelations make people feel like they're doing something, when in reality they're just consuming more content, feeding their stress responses and remaining emotionally trapped. As long as you're caught in the cycle of fear, division and reaction, you're not free. You're still being controlled, just through different means. Intelligent, critical thinkers who start seeing through the system's manipulation often fall into another trap, believing that everything is a lie, a construct, a manipulation, and they see signs everywhere. They become obsessed with uncovering every deception, believing that nothing can be trusted. They question everything, including themselves, and lose the ability to discern what is actually true. And this is exactly what the system wants, to leave you so overwhelmed with conflicting information that you can no longer tell what's real and not. You cannot sift through it anymore. Some people even go as far as to reject basic, verifiable truths, fall into contradictory or illogical beliefs, such as the idea that the earth is flat, despite scientific, observational and rational evidence proving otherwise. The system wants you to get stuck in endless questioning, because as long as you question everything indefinitely, you never act, never stabilize, never find that balance and never break free. So when you cannot even trust your own discernment, you become just as controlled as when you were asleep. Only now you believe that you're free. False solutions. The system's safety nets for the waking mind. For those who wake up and reject mainstream narratives, the system has another level of control, offering pre-packaged solutions that seem rebellious, but that are actually controlled opposition. It can be alternative media outlets that seem anti-establishment, but still push narratives designed to keep people in fear and dependency. Revolutionary movements that claim to be about freedom but are actually funded and controlled to lead people into another dead-end system. Spiritual and conspiracy-based groups that claim to have the truth but instead trap people in more disempowering beliefs that keep them passive, waiting for salvation Many fall into this trap thinking, now I see the truth, so I must be free. I follow this new narrative instead, so I must be awake. I know about all the hidden agenda. I know about all the hidden agendas, so I must be safe from manipulation. But real freedom is not about knowing everything that is wrong with the system. It is about knowing how to step out of the game entirely, and doing so. After waking up, many get trapped in repetitive emotional cycles. Anger at the corruption, deception and suffering, fear of what is coming next or how deep the control goes, grief for the loss of illusions, loved ones still asleep or past decisions made in ignorance, helplessness, feeling like nothing can be done because the system is too powerful. But the system thrives on emotional energy. A person in constant anger, fear or despair is just as controlled as someone who is completely asleep. To break free, you must stop feeding the system with your energy. Ask yourself, am I consuming information to expand my awareness, or am I still relying on others to define truth for me? Have I truly stepped out of fear, or am I just reacting to it from a different angle? Do I seek knowledge to empower myself, or have I become addicted to uncovering deception without ever taking any real action? So how do we escape this global narcissistic control grid? Here are 10 steps. Remember, you can't change a narcissist. The only way to win is to stop engaging. And the same applies to escaping systemic control. You don't fight it. You outgrow it. You don't play their game anymore. Step 1, reclaim your mind from the programming. Reduce exposure to fear-based media and propaganda. Challenge your beliefs by consuming diverse perspectives, not just those that confirm your current views. Strengthen discernment. Question everything, but don't fall into the endless skepticism. Journal daily. Observe your thoughts and recognize which ones are conditioned responses. Ask yourself daily, are these my thoughts or were they imposed on me? Step 2, take back control of your energy. Stop feeding energy into outrage and fear cycles. Prioritize rest, as in digital detox, deep sleep and natural light exposure. Ground yourself daily, walk barefoot, sit in nature, meditate in silence, practice breath work. Long exhales and nasal breathing calm the nervous system. Try to remove one energy-draining habit this week. It could be doom scrolling, fear-driven debates, reactionary content. Step 3, stop feeding the fear machine. Limit consumption of negative media. Avoid news or social media or work emails during the first and last hour of your day. Because in these moments, your subconscious mind is most impressionable. And whatever you focus on acts as a seed, taking root as unconscious programming that shapes your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Replace passive consumption with creation, writing, gardening, creating art or music, learning or building something tangible. Withdraw from debates that lead nowhere. Choose empowerment over fear. Focus on what you can do rather than what is broken. Each day, ask yourself, does this empower me or does it drain me? Step 4, build sovereignty through local and decentralized systems. Shift away from corporate dependency. Support small businesses, barter, and local economics. Explore alternative financial models. Precious metals, decentralized finance, and community trading. Start small with self-sufficiency. See if you can grow some food, store essentials, and learn basic survival skills. Choose one area, could be finance, food, or energy, and take a tangible step towards self-reliance. Step 5, rewire your nervous system away from fear. Reset stress responses through cold therapy, grounding, meditation, and deep breathing. Reduce digital stimulation, limit blue light, EMF exposure, especially at night. Use physical movement to release stored tension. stretching, exercise, dancing, shaking, stretching, or somatic practices. Try to spend at least 10 minutes daily discharging stress through breathwork, movement, or grounding. Step 6. Reclaim your energy and focus. Create before you consume. Start your day with intention, not external noise. Minimize distractions, turn off notifications, curate your information sources. Prioritize deep work. Maybe try one task at a time, like no multitasking, unless you're a mum. Set a clear boundary. Replace one reactive habit, could be checking emails or social media first thing in the morning, with an intentional practice. Step 7. Shift from reaction to conscious action. Withdraw from systems that do not serve you. News cycles, political outrage, and external savior narratives. Invest in real-world skills, practical survival, building and energy independence. Build parallel systems, community-based solutions, decentralized networks, and skill sharing. Identify one practical way to reduce dependence on the system and implement it this week. Step 8. Heal emotional trauma. Most of our suffering, individually and as a society, stems from unhealed emotional trauma. Trauma keeps people stuck in fear-based patterns, repeating cycles of self-sabotage, toxic relationships, and external dependency. Acknowledge the wounds that still control you. Process emotions fully. Use holistic trauma healing methods, somatic therapy, inner child work, nervous system regulation. Come join our trauma healing and narcissistic abuse recovery programs. I'm offering them now on a pay-what-you-can basis. Step 9. Develop deep self-knowledge. Breaking free is not just about detaching from the system. It is about discovering who you truly are, beyond conditioning, beyond programming and false beliefs. Observe your behaviors, triggers, and attachment patterns. Go deeper than psychology. Who are you at your core? Look at what is unchangeable in you, your essence. Dedicate time to self-inquiry. Sit alone in stillness. Ask, who am I beyond my trauma? Beyond my fears, beyond the roles that I've played. Step 10. Build and be part of a supportive community. We're not meant to do this alone. Human connection, collaboration, and mutual support are vital to building a new way of life. Find like-minded individuals who are also on the path to awakening, healing, and transformation. Exchange skills, knowledge, and emotional support. Move away from superficial online interactions to real, meaningful connections. Since you've stayed this long, I know you care about breaking free, becoming your most authentic, powerful self. That's why I invite you to join a community, a space dedicated to awakening, healing, and transformation. This is not just another group. This is a growing network of people who are actively reclaiming their power from personal trauma, from toxic relationships, and from the global narcissistic system. Inside, you'll find our holistic trauma healing programs so you can finally process and release emotional wounds. You have tools for self-discovery and awakening, guiding you back to your essence. You have a real supportive community, a space that is outside of mainstream social media, free from tracking, algorithms, and censorship. I offer it all on a pay-what-you-can basis. This means that even if the system or an abusive ex has left you financially drained, you still have access to the healing and empowerment that you need. However, this also means that your contributions matter. If you find value in what is offered, and you are in a position to give back, I kindly ask that you do so that we can continue to grow and support more people and build something truly sustainable. I don't know where this will lead. I just know that we need to start exploring alternatives together. We are all here for a reason. Each of us has a unique perspective, skill, wisdom to contribute. This is not about following a guru or another authority figure. It is about you reclaiming your own power. So let's create something new. Let's break free, not just from trauma and not just from narcissistic relationships, but from the entire narcissistic system that has kept humanity asleep and controlled for way too long. Come join us. The revolution begins within.